Liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis on a mission to build, resupply, and to do research on the International Space Station.
Hi, good night to everyone. Today we have an special talk. We have two guests, one from Mexico and another one from India. They both have more than 20 years of experience in agile, like transformation organization. And I want to introduce first to Hector Kott. Hector is a diligent and bilingual engineering manager, scrum master, and certified product manager with more than 13 years of experience in IT industry, a strong background in developing and implementing technology business solution. He loves process improvement. He loves Scrum. He has a channel in YouTube that is called Scrum Express. And let meet Hector. Hi, Hector. Good night.
Hello, Fabian. Hello to all the audience. Welcome and thank you for being here. That was actually a very professional and very nice intro, Fabian.
Thank you for these 16 minutes. I know that is quite late in your country, so I appreciate the time that you take for this conversation.
Thank you.
So let's introduce the other guest. Is Ashutosh Bhatawadekar. Is a senior industry professional with more than 21 years of experience in the field of agile transformation, scale agile, and Scrum implementation. He has been a conference speaker in Pune, New York, Vienna, and other cities. So let's welcome Ashuto. Hi, Ashuto.
Hi, hi, good evening. Hello.
So good evening for us and good morning for you.
Thank you. Yeah, good morning for us. Yeah, thanks.
Good morning for Asha. Well, let's go to the topic. The main question that we want to ask is how to build an agile culture, including country behaviors. And for that, I would like to ask Hector, what do you think are like the key element to do an agile transformation?
Thank you for the question. So I believe that the key element is, engagement of the whole company, right? Recently, I have been in some projects where companies or customers believe that they are ready to have an agile transformation, and at the end, when we start the transformation, sometimes we need more engagements, right? We know as a company that we should be agile. There are a lot of advantages, but for me, answering the question, the first one or the most important one would be engagement from top management and from everyone, right? Everyone in the company should be onboarded and should be sold first the idea and the advantages that being an agile company has, right? So that's the most important thing in my opinion.
Okay, perfect, Hector. For you, Ashuto?
Yeah, I feel that for a company to be ready, right? I mean, they have to do certain checks. Some basic checks have to be done in place, I would say. Whether are we, and when we say that, are we ready for agile transformation? How is the organization culture? How is the working style? How is the current ecosystem? So I think there has to be a 3 or 4 dimension check around it, our readiness towards it. And again, I would say that rather than going in for a big bang approach, try to test this idea in couple of projects, try to test this in few of the areas, and then based on that gauge of feedback. So it's like a pilot, what I'm saying. Do a small pilot, work on it, and then explore whether it is possible to expand it to the larger organization ecosystem. So that I would say would be some of the key elements of a readiness check.
Okay, thank you, Ashuto. Ashuto, and I see that and agree with both that
Mhm.
engagement and maybe start small with a small pilot is a good way to uh, do a transformation in a company. Right now, there are a lot of companies that is still with traditional project management framework, and they
Mhm.
want to change to agile, but maybe they don't want to change the mindset. They just want to change the techniques. What the recommendation for that company that are trying to do that?
I would say don't do a half-baked approach, right? Rather than doing just for the sake of doing it, better not do it. Okay. I mean, you're happy what you're doing, right? I mean, if you're good in doing traditional practices, why move into an agile just for a tick mark, right? I call it as a tick mark agile, right? Just for the sake of doing it, you're doing it, and it leads to disastrous results. Rather, do a full-fledged, as I said earlier, do a kind of a deep dive assessment whether we are ready for agile, whether we are okay from a pilot perspective, and then move into an agile way of working. So for such companies, my advice would be that just because don't fall into the peer pressure, just because companies around you are doing it, let's not copy them. Let's first see, are we okay to do it? Is agile really working for will work for us? And then take a call around it. That is how I would recommend for these companies.
Yeah, I can agree with Ashutosh. I have seen this happening in many parts of
Mhm.
Latin America, where
Mhm.
companies want to be agile and they just say, okay, let's implement Scrum, right? And that's it, or Kanban.
Right.
And then you see
Mhm.
companies doing Scrum, but when the time comes for the teams to decide what to build, for example, they don't give that trust to the teams, right? They are still getting requirements top down, top bottom, so it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? You're not really empowering teams. You're not really being agile. You're just trying to put some practices over there. But the most important thing, or the most important aspect about being agile is actually to have the values and to respect or encourage your day to day following the agile manifesto, instead of just putting in place some framework, right? So yeah, either go all the way or don't do it at all, right?
Correct, correct. I agree with you, Hector. I mean, that's a very good thing. Yeah. I mean, don't do it just for the sake of doing it, I would say.
Perfect. And when we talk about the values, we have a maybe some values in the Scrum framework. Which one is the most that you like it, Hector?
For me, probably would be focus. There are values in the Scrum framework, but before the values in the Scrum framework, I would put on top the values in the Agile Manifesto. For me, at some points, you have to choose, or you have to go to one side and follow the rules as the Scrum, for example, framework says, or you can follow and break a little the rules or be a little flexible, but continue being agile as the values and principles from the Agile Manifesto, right? So from the Scrum, to answer the question, for me, it would be focus, and also having the courage. There's one that's called courage, right? So you need to know, if you have focus and you're able to have the courage to say, no, I will not do this because these are my arguments, these are my reasons, then you will be able to be focused, or focused on certain thing that, or capability that will drive value, right? And you should be able to say no to other stuff in order to do the right things, right? So those would be my 2 cents in this topic.
Perfect. And what about you, Ashuto? Is the same?
Okay, yeah. You no no, you put me in a difficult choice because you are telling me that okay, I have to choose only one value. Although I would have loved to choose multiple, but I would say respect. The one Scrum value which I will pick up is respect, because I feel that if there's a culture of respect amongst the team members, right? If there's a culture of respect amongst the stakeholders, I think things become much more easier, right? I mean, mutual respect, mutual admiration. I think that so respect is what I would go with. And yeah, taking the liberty here to move a little bit earlier, what Hector did, Hector has given me that opportunity. So if I go to the agile values, I will say customer collaboration over contract negotiation. I think that is something which stands out for me.
Okay, perfect, perfect. I love to be focused because I've
Hmm.
been
Hmm.
the main problem that have company is the lack of attention. We
Hmm.
are in a era in which we don't prioritize, and
Hmm.
maybe we start doing a lot of things, and lost that focus and lost that level of achievement that we can get with a team. So we are here and we are from three different countries: Colombia,
Hmm.
Mexico, and India. And we have different rituals. We have like different culture, but the Scrum is a framework that can be applied the same in the three countries. What do you think about that?
You want to go first, Ashutosh?
Yeah,
This
sure,
time?
sure. See, I feel, yeah, sure, sure. I can go first. No worries. Thanks, Sector. Yeah, I feel that, I mean, as long as the agile core values and principles are in place, right? Framework doesn't matter, right? I mean, the first base level I would say is the agile manifesto. I mean, I strict by that more than going into a framework. Yeah, framework customization can vary. I mean, we all are from three different countries. In fact, from different continents also. What I feel is framework is something which obviously would need some kind of a customization, some kind of pluses and minuses. But as long as the core agile values and principles are intact, right, and we live by it and we try to implement it, yeah, framework customization would be there. I don't think there will be a uniform way of applying the framework. There might be some changes which we have to do. And again, open for any further discussion on this.
Yeah, I agree, and I have worked with teams in Germany, in United States, and in Mexico, and I can share some of the difference that I have seen, at least with the teams that I have worked with. Right. So, for example, in Germany, I was with some teams that were very, following the rules and the framework exactly how it is, right? Because that's the culture, right? They are very well
Correct.
educated, and they follow the rules specifically exactly as the rules are. And if you tell them, well, we will not have today a stand up, they're like, no, 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 what's going on, right? This is not right. This is something is not wrong, right? So of course, it has advantages and challenges, right? But they do it pretty straightforward, or following the guide and the agile processes very in a very not non-flexible way, if I could say it like that. Then you go to the United States, and you will see over there that the roles are named exactly as they should. Like, they also follow very well the values, and they implement everything. And but in a two lines less, right? I don't know how to explain it. Like, a little less by their book, right? And then you go to Mexico, and over here you see a lot of things like, you will not believe it, right? Like, there's a team lead over here doing the Scrum and the product manager role at the same time, and then I mean, there's a bunch of things that you will never expect a German, for example, or a person from the United States to be doing it, right? Because but then this brings other challenges, but other advantages, right? Because probably in Germany, the culture will not let you start with something if you don't have the exact roles and the exact. And over here, you can be a little more adaptive, like, well, let's fix it somehow. And I have seen this behavior across Latin America, right? So, of course, all the cultures have different, and I don't want to generalize, right? That's my experience and the teams that I have worked with, but probably it's some kind of a pattern over there, right? And it has advantages, and it has its disadvantages, right? And that's okay. I believe, as you mentioned, that as long as we follow the principles, which are very clear, and that's why they are very clear and very simple, right? Because that way everyone from any culture should be able to follow them and to apply them. So, as long as we follow the agile principles, and try our best, and be open and be respectful, and follow the Scrum values also, I think that we will get to a good, safe place, right? And good way of working, I guess.
Thanks, Hector and Ashuto. We call that in Colombia because we are also Latin, Frankenstein Scrum or Frank Scrum.
Exactly.
And I understand because people from Latin is very different. People from USA or from Germany,
Mhm.
especially in the flexibility level that we have. In order to get to the question of this podcast, of how to build an agile culture, including content behaviors, is necessary. Do you think that is necessary to include the country behaviors when you are doing an agile transformation?
Mm, yeah, I can go if you permit. Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I feel yes, it is. It is one of the important attribute. In fact, now that we are working in a cross-cultural environment, we are working in a very diverse with a diverse set of people. I think the first step for a coaching should be understand, okay, the culture part, right? In fact, I in one of the transformation engagement where we had people from US, UK, and India. I mean, three different continents, three different cultures, three different time zones, three different climates variations, if I were to say, right? We felt that yes, I think more than talking about the agile values and principles, more than talking about which framework to apply, I think the first set of thing which is needed is a cross-cultural training. Understand how people operate. What are their working life? A person in US starts his or her day pretty early in the day, right? I mean, if we look at their working hours, they start at maybe 7 a.m. in the morning. Whereas in India, there's a general tendency to start at around 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. So obviously, these are small nuances, and probably in UK it is again pretty early. I would say 7:30, 8 a.m. in the morning. That definitely people need to know with each other, right? What are their working styles, what are their working habits, what happens on a weekend, right? What happens on a Friday? So it is very important to understand these small nuances. Only then coach as a coach, I would be able to understand, okay, how team members are going to coexist with each other, or rather not coexist with each other, or what could be the friction point amongst them. So I definitely feel yes, a detailed cultural assessment, a detailed, I would say, cultural know-how amongst these teams is something which is very vital and important. I would definitely go with that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I have probably two comments over here. The first one is that the most successful teams that I have worked
Mhm.
with normally come from mixed teams, right? Where you have a guy from Egypt and a guy from
Mhm.
India and a guy from USA and Mexican, and you build these this good mix where everyone is learning from each other and everyone is sharing their own experiences from their own countries, and they bring to the table a whole new view, right? An understanding of what is agile in their countries, in their cultures, in the way that they live. And I think that that's really good for teams, right? When you have all the team from the same place, it's not the same. You don't get a lot of open out of the box ideas. You just get what these persons think, right, out of their own experiences, which are some kind of from the same place. So I think that mixed teams generally work really well, at least in my experience.
Mhm.
And the other one is that when you talk about different cultures, I think that as agile coaches or scrum masters, it is our responsibility to teach or to coach the recently formed teams about working agreements, right? So we should set up this kind of workshop where we try to communicate, try to make everyone in the team start communicating and telling what they like and what they don't, right? And this normally speaks a lot about the culture, right? Something as simple as, hey, I don't like to turn on my camera every day in the
Mhm.
dailies. That's okay, man or woman. If you don't like to turn it on, that's okay. It's totally up to you, right? So if we can set up some rules like, hey, let's try to set up the camera at least once every, I don't know, week, right? The Fridays. Are you okay? And then probably he'll say, well, yeah, once a week, I'm okay. So you need to find these middle grounds between the way that each of us on the team behaves according to our culture, right? And find this common ground and set up these rules. So when the time of conflict and decision making, etc., comes, we are able to have certain rules, and we can have a better solution to any challenges that the team has, right? So those are the two cents.
Hector, do you have any like dynamic that we can use to set up the rules in building a team, cross team?
I have done it many times, but I don't have. I will. This is a good idea. I will take some notes and I will take it as a homework to build a video probably that I can share with the audience. Right? Um, it's not that hard. Normally, what I have done, and I can share it quickly in 1 minute or two, is just taking everyone together. Probably having a Miro board or a mural board or whatever tool we can collaborate at the same time together, and then put probably a picture of your favorite superhero or a picture of yourself, whatever you want, and say over there or put over there in the board, hey, this is Hector, I'm from Guadalajara. Probably say I like to play ping pong or whatever, and just having this kind of exercise where you talk about what's your hobby or who are you or whatever you want to share, and talk to the team about yourself and what you like, what you not like. And then probably as a second part, with that you get a visual image of the person, right? It's not now an email or just a Teams or whatever Slack. So you put a face and you kind of start creating some empathy with the rest of the teams. And once you do that, then I just put over there one column that says, what would you like to be the rules for this team, right? Let's suppose that we will be not working, but let's suppose that we will be moving together, I don't know, the 8 of us. So we need to set up some rules, right? This is my food, don't touch this is okay. I can share this, I don't know, this chair, or this TV is for everyone, this thing is just for me in my room, I don't know. At 10 p.m. let's turn off the lights and let's turn off the high music. So this kind of story I tell them, and now I said, okay, so now let's set up the rules for this team, right? What will we be doing if someone is running late to the daily? The last one standing should say a joke, for example. Okay, that's a rule. That's a good rule. Okay, so then another person says, well, how are we going to do it when we have a hard decision to make that we do not agree, right? How will we do it? And then probably they will name a leader that will gather the sentiment across the team, or they will say, well, let's vote. We will have this voting system. So every time that there's a conflict, we should solve it like this. So these kind of conversations, first knowing a little each other, and then setting up the rules to not to leave, but to work together, really helps, right? So those will be what I call a working agreement, not workshops, but a quick session that I just described. That's what I like to do, and it helps a lot, right? And let's remember that this is kind of a living document, right? So whenever there's a situation that happens, and we say we can always go back to the board and say, hey, let's add this rule because that didn't work out, right? Let's fix this. Just like a definition of ready and definition of done, right? You would do it every sprint. You go back and review them and add or modify. Right?
Perfect. I like it. I like it. The using of Miro, Mural. I think those tools are easy to use it and easy to enable a new kind of conversation, especially when we are in a virtual environment, a remote working that is currently out. And Ashuto, what about you? You are related to Miro, Mural, or do you use
Yeah,
another
yeah.
tools?
Very much. So I think what pandemic has done to all of us is that I mean these tools, we learned these additional tools, I would say, right? I mean, believe me, before pandemic, I was more in favor of a face-to-face coaching, and even if we had teams which had across the continents, we made sure that we came on a video call, we came in a video conference, and we talked about it. And yeah, I agree with Hector. I mean, there is still a little reluctance on teams to come on videos, right? And we can understand that, right? I mean, I don't want to expose my background of my home, right, to the entire world. Although I think many of these tools give you a virtual background option, but still people are a little hesitant to sorry to come on a video, right? And yeah, definitely I use Mural, Miro, and yes, I mean working agreements is something what also I have been cultivating. I've been saying that teams that let's have a kind of a team agreement or a working agreement, and what Hector mentioned, the definition, right? This is our team's definition, right? Right. This is what we as a team believe in. which is a living document. But I always believe that, I will go back to what Mr. Tuckman said like long time back, right? The 5 ladders of team building: forming, storming, norming, performing. I won't use the word, I don't like the 5th ladder in that, which is adjourning, because I personally feel that if your team has reached a performing stage, I think we should keep the same team, right? There would be some changes, of course, but we should try to, because the team is now a well-oiled machinery. It is now gelled a lot, right? So it makes sense for us to keep the same team intact, right? So I would say that we'll have to give some time for the team to reach that performing stage, right? It will always start with forming, then it will storm, it will might be coming back to the forming stage. So there always will be those cycles where it will rotate between those 4 stages. But yeah, from forming to basically performing, it's a journey, what I would like to take, right? And with the help of these mural and Miro boards.
Okay, perfect. I love the two-mark model, and I think something particular in that model is how you manage or how you handle the emotion when the people
Correct.
are changing. And I want to talk about that, about the emotion in agile transformation. Um, could you give us experience in which maybe you have a team and the team doesn't want to change, but at the end you get it?
Okay, sure. So I can give an example of a team. I can also give an example of a kind of a middle management person. Who was very reluctant to change. Without, of course, naming any of these. So this is one team where I was coaching, and they used to always question me. Okay, this team used to always question me that why do we need to meet for 15 minutes for a daily scrum, right? What is the benefit of a retrospective? Why should we be doing? Yeah, they were okay for a sprint planning. They were okay for a sprint review, because at the end of the day, these two events are more from a product owner perspective, right? In a sprint planning meeting, we pick up items from the backlog and we decide what we will be doing. In a review, we all know, right? We demonstrate the good work, or we give a visualization of the work what we have done to our product owner. But there was always this resistance from the team that should we really be coming for 15 minutes daily, right? What benefit it gives us? So I told the team, okay, in this particular sprint, you take a call. Okay, you take a call out of 4 events, which one would you like to do? Okay. And they said, okay, fine. Okay. And they decided that we will not have a daily scrum. They decided that we will not have a retrospective. It was a perfectly fine sprint. Okay, they did a proper planning, they did a demo and a review, and they said, see, we have done this sprint without a daily scrum, without a retrospective. I said, okay, fine. And then we said, okay, let us move ahead. Okay, and then after 2 sprints, the team realized that, you know what, they're losing out. As far as the daily scrum is concerned, they're losing out some very vital communication. And this being the fact that this was a kind of a distributed team, the team members were not at the same location, right? And then they felt that, you know what, we should be talking. At least we should be talking. Can we have a call? I said, exactly. That's what I was telling, that the daily scrum is basically an opportunity for all of you to come together. Because if you start losing vital aspects of communication, you will lose on it. And also from a retrospective, they learned a lesson. One of the very vital lessons they learned, that come what maybe you say, right, whether it is really giving a benefit or not, at least we have recorded some things which went well, which comes in as a good note for appreciation for the team. At least we know that, okay, which things are not going on well. So maybe we may not take it as an immediate action item in the next sprint, but we can definitely take it up in the subsequent sprints, right? So that they realized as a team, that is what they realized, that yeah, we are missing out on vital things. So that is one example, I would say, that the team learned on its own rather than me coaching. The team learned on its own. Sometimes you have to take a back seat, what I feel, right? Because they should not feel that, okay, you're trying to impose something, but you take a back seat, you try to then ask them questions in later sprints, and then they realize it. And then, of course, one middle management person who was very afraid of agile, because he felt that you know what, this is going to make me redundant, or I might lose my job. But with sustained coaching, I could make sure that he actually understood the meaning of it, and he actually moved into a role of a product ownership role, right? This was a kind of a catalyst coaching what I did for him. And he realized that yes, probably a command and control manager does not exist in an agile world. and let me not resist it, but I can always explore some other opportunities around it or other avenues around it. Yeah, so these are the two examples. What I could think is that the team initially not in line with the agile coach, but over a period of time realizing the value of these events and the value of coaching. That is how I would put it.
I like both stories, Ashuto. I think
Thanks.
Agile can do a lot of that story over the world. That's why I create this space because I think,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you say something that is very important, that the communication enables a new kind of decision, and then you have a new results. And I think when you are disciplined with the routines, with the daily sprint, with the
Mhm.
sprint review, with the retrospective, you are having a different kind of conversation that drive
Correct.
different results. So thanks for that example. Now Hector wants to say something.
Yeah, I can add. I also enjoy the stories, and I can add to that for me the sentimental part has to do a lot with resistance to change, right? Because that's the key part in every agile transformation, and I believe that we as humans are not actually wired to accept change and to welcome it, right? So think about the last time that you changed something for real in your life, and it was hard. It
Mhm.
was probably not easy, right? So every change, and that's when you want to change something. Imagine that someone else comes to the team and tells you, hey, you should be working like this or this, and you need to change that. It's always hard, right? And I think that that's natural, right? We need to understand that changes are not very welcomed in every occasion, right? And that's normal. And that's why we need certain kind of leadership where it will probably depend on each context and on each person, right? Every person has their own way of leadership, and every person has their own things that will trigger happiness or sadness, or they will be angry, depending how you approach that person, right? So as coaches, it is our responsibility to find a way to motivate everyone. Talking about motivation, there's a good story. I will tell it quickly around motivation, because I have talked to many coaches that think that there's no motivation, like there's no way to motivate a team, right? In the higher picture. Why? Because there are some persons or books or I have read where they say, well, motivation comes from you, from each of us, right? I'm the only person that is able to motivate myself, right? But then there's others that say no. There are ways, right? And one of these ways is I can share over here this book. It's called Switch from Chip and Dan Heath, and in this book I read a good example. So there was this high school or something. I don't know if it was, yeah, secondary or high school, and there were three or four guys over there that will all come late to the classes all the time, right? And the teacher was kind of a very smart person, I guess. And there was this place in the high school where they would put all the things that didn't work anymore or that they didn't want to use anymore. So it was kind of a room over there with things that they throw away, but not throw away, just put them over there for some other occasion or whatever. And these guys saw that there was a sorry, a coach over there, a coach, but by coach I mean this place where you sit down, right? This
Mhm.
this chair that is very comfortable, right? That you sit over there. And this guy, what he did is, okay, I will try to motivate these persons that are coming late to the room every class by having this coach in the room, and I will put it in the first row, right? And it will be very comfortable. So the persons that come first to the class, they will sit over there, right? And they will be very comfortable. They will be able to be like this. So in a certain way, this is kind of a motivation, right? Because these guys that were coming very late to the room, they wanted to stretch their legs and they wanted to be very comfortable, and they started joining the class very early to be over there, right? Just So these kind of behaviors, these kind of, it's a silly story, but you get the motivation behind it, right? Or you know if you set everything in place for certain persons that do not like to do certain things, there's always a way, right, to motivate them somehow, like this guy motivating her the persons in the class to get early, and they will get something in change, right? So there's always a way, right, with sentiments. And here's where it also comes in place, the topic of this meeting, right? It's very different, the sentimental part, from different cultures, and you need to find a way. That's the only thing that will make sense if you want to have a happy team, a motivated team that works together in a good way, right?
Yeah, Hector, there is a study from London school that says that to install a new habit or a new behavior, you have to invest like 66 days, 22 days for destroying the current habit,
Mm.
22 days to installing the new habit, and the other 22 days to get in conscience. How much time do you think we have to take to installing routines like the daily scrum, retrospective, sprint review?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that probably you can have a team mature, if you could say it like that, in 6 months. I think that 6 months is a good amount of time, where you can always have the frameworks set up or in place, right? And they can start actually trying new things, and they can start looking at what's missing, what's working, what's not working. So I would think that probably in the 6 month period, I would think that we will have a nice version of Scrum in place, right? And once you pass that mark, then you will be able to to start playing a little with some of the guide, or be a little more flexible with the team. I think the important part of this is, um, sorry, whenever I interview for the Scrum Master role, I always ask this question, right? What is the criteria for you to or what would be your response if the team wants to have, I don't know, to skip the review, or to have 4 dailies instead of 5? What is the criteria where you give that accountability to the team? How would you react? And what I'm expecting always is to say it depends on the maturity of the team, right? If there's a team that has been doing Scrum for 1 year, 2, 3 years, sorry, they are delivering value, they are working very good, they have happy customers, they I don't know, everyone is working correctly, and there's value over there every single sprint. Then sorry, I will have some water over here. Then you can let them play with the framework, right? That's my opinion. If you have just started with the Scrum team and you have been working with them for 1 or 2 months, well, first put the framework in place, respect all the meetings, all the events, all the values, everything, and then you can play with it, right?
Perfect, 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 Hector. And what do you think about that, Ashuto?
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting question. And this question, even I have been asked multiple times by leaders, that how much time you think it will take. First of all, the research what you quoted, right? I remember having having heard about it. One of my team members was talking about it, right? Roughly 20 days to remove a habit, 20 days to get a habit, and 20 days to mature it. And yeah, I'm in more or less sync with that findings, because when this pandemic happened, right, it took nearly 20-24 days for our teams to get adjust to work from home, then another 20 days to actually come on terms with it, and now another 20 days have gone, and now when we're trying to call people back in office, they're reluctant to come because that habit has been set into them. So I definitely vouch that research finding. Coming back to your particular question, how much time it would take, I would say that we normally talk in India in terms of releases, right? I mean, that's the word we use. I would say 1 quarter, which, let us say that if we have around 5 to 6 sprints in that, if it is a 2 week sprint, we will have 6 sprints in that. I think we will have to give a team to make sure they adjust to it. Again, it doesn't mean that the team is not following scrum events and ceremonies from sprint one, but to get a real insight into it, or the real working on it, or a benefit of it, I would give it a quarter for a team to at least understand the basic things about how exactly an agile engagement goes through it. What are those events? What are those, I would say, sync up events, what we have, and how do we interact with the various stakeholders? So I would give it a one quarter is what I would like to give my team. At least, and if from a leadership perspective, they will have to at least wait for 3 or 4 months minimum to see the results from trickling. And before that, expecting anything would be too much of an expectation, I would say.
Perfect, perfect. I want to say something that I think a way to accelerate this process is to change some habits, but not just in work, also at home. And I love reading. I love books, and I think when you put a different thought in your mind, you start changing faster. Which book do you recommend that helps that change?
Wanna go first? Okay, I have the books over here, so probably I can go first, right? I'm prepared
Yeah,
for
sure,
this
sure.
one.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this one is the one that where I saw that story that I really like about how to motivate and how to make changes. It's called Switch, right? Chip and then hit. That's good. There's this one from Marty Kagan that I really like. It's called Inspired, and this one is a masterpiece for product managers, product owners. How to how to motivate their team so they understand why are they doing what they are doing, right? So it's a very different story if you tell the scrum team, hey, build this window, than if you tell, hey, if you build this window, then there's this bunch of users that will get a lot of value out of it, right? So this one, Inspired and Empowered, is the other one from Marty Kagan. I think that they are really helpful in showing us how to empower teams. Jürgen Appello, right? He has a lot of books. I think he has like 4 or 5 related to management 3.0. So management 3.0, it's the new way of deciding and getting away from command and control. So I think that everyone should take that training, the management 3.0. And then you have a classic over here, which is Lisa Atkins, right? Coaching agile teams. Every single coach in the planet should read this one if you want to be a coach, right? This is the way. She's an institution. Lisa Atkins is an institution in agile management, and agile coaching. So those are my 4 recommendations over here. Yeah.
Hector, and do you usually say to your team that read that books, or
Well, I don't like to do that because probably they will do it just because I say so. And one of the things that I like and I think it's really important is you can give kind of the advice or give small tips, but if you try to teach instead of coach a team, at some point they will stop doing what you tell them to do, right? So I like more to ask some questions and try to motivate them to reading some of the books, but not I will never say, hey guys, you have to read this if you want to, but yeah.
perfect, perfect. And Ashut, which one are your favorite books?
Yeah, my favorite, of course, Hector already took that, the last example, Coaching Agile Teams by Lisa Atkins. I think that is the Bible. I think that every coach, as Hector mentioned, on this planet Earth should be reading that book. The second interesting book I have is Servant Leadership. This is by an Indian author, Vineet Nair, ex-CEO of HCL. I think that is one book which we should be reading, right? So the book name is not Servant Leadership. The book name is Employees First, Customers Second. So that is his experience as a CEO of HCL Corporation, what he has mentioned. That is one good book. And then multipliers by Liz Wiseman, right? I think that is a very good book. I would say leaders should be reading it. And the fourth book I would say is Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Lalox. I think those are would be my four top pick books which every coach should be reading. And apart from that, I do recommend some books like for product management, for Scrum Masters. But I would say that these four books are fundamental books which all of us, whether we are a Scrum Master, product owner, or the CEO of the organization, or an enterprise agile coach, or a coach, we all should be reading these four books for sure.
Yeah,
I want to add something that I forgot. So another not book, but another piece of text that you need to read if you want to be a Scrum Master and Agile coach, it's the Scrum Guide. You will not believe how many interviews I have had where I ask the Scrum Master, hey, so what do you think about the new guide? What's the difference between the 2017? And they're like, well, they don't know, right? So if you want to be a Scrum Master, you need to read the guides, right? That's the Bible. Liz Atkins is great, but when you're talking about Scrum, you need to read the guide, right? And a lot of Scrum Masters out there doing Scrum actually, right? They already have the job, and they have not read the Scrum Guide. They still think that refinement is an official event, and they never mention the sprint as an event. It says it in the guide, right? Whenever I ask the events and they mention the sprint as a container, then I know, hey, this guy knows the guide, right? And whenever they mention the product goal, I know, hey, this guy has read the new guide, right? So it's very easy to understand or to notice if the person that you're interviewing has the knowledge or not. And yeah, just read the guide, right? And also the manifesto. And I also wanted to add to what Ashutosh mentioned right now. So in EPAM where I work, I actually have a lot of times to make the decision between, hey, probably this decision will benefit the customer or it will benefit my employee, right? The person that reports to me from my team, right? And normally I pick my team, right? Probably my boss would not like it, right? Because but there's another person whose job is to make sure that the customer is happy. Those are the account managers, right? For me, it's about having my people happy, right? So whenever my team is and if some of them are watching this, they could tell the truth and they could say, yes, that's the way it is, right? Sometimes I have to just say, well, I will move this person to another project because he's not happy. Even if the customer is happy with him, he's not enjoying his work right now. He's not enjoying his day to day. And I decide to keep the person from my team, then and I will still get another person for the customer, right? So it's a win-win situation. But I think that the phrase that you mentioned, Ashutosh, around taking care of your employee first and then your customer, it's 100% true, right? And many persons do not understand it, many managers, and that's something that we should be taking care of. In this book that from Marty Kagan, actually he mentions your only job as a manager is to have the people happy, right? Motivated. That's it. You're not there to teach them how to do their work. You're just there to support them. And anyone from my team could tell you, well, Hector has never been a micromanager. He has been there to support me, and that's it, right? That's how managers should be working nowadays. It's a very different story from 10 years ago, right? But we need to adapt, be agile about it, and understand our responsibility, right? Making your team happy. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with both. I love the books that
Mhm.
you say, especially La Lux books. What happened with Ashuto? Well, um, hi Ashuto. Because I think the new era is going to change about humanity. We are going to a society 5.0 that we are going to have more time to think, more time to get related to another person. And I want to make a final question before, because yeah, we are close to 10 p.m. here. And what do you think is the uh, main difference between great things and good things? Because there are a lot of good things and there are a few great things. What is the difference to go from a good to great?
Ashutosh, please go first.
Okay, sure, sure. I feel that the difference is that a good team probably will be having, I would say, if I take the last 4 or 5 engagements, probably they will be having a kind of, I would say, maybe a 2 or 3 projects which are successful, 2 or 3 which are might be not be successful. Okay, and a good team is becoming more like, I would say that this team is something which it might have come from a kind of a ground level to a good level. But what happens with a good team is that they become a little complacent. Okay, they don't tend to challenge themselves. A great team is a team which I would say that, not that it will not end up into a problem, not that there won't be any conflicts in that team. There definitely will be conflicts, there definitely will be challenges, there definitely will be lows and highs in that team also. But this a great team is a team, the more trouble you put that team into, the more better they will come out, right? So they will actually challenge themselves. They will come out of that zone of complacency into that zone of unconscious competence. We have that model, right? From unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. So they will always challenge themselves, and they will work together, and they will come out of that situation. Another one difference before I give it to Hector is that a good team does coordination well, but it fails in collaboration. Whereas a great team not only does coordination well, it also collaborates itself very well. And that's how I would like to differentiate between a good team and a great team. Yeah, and thanks, Hector, for giving me the opportunity to go first. I hand it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to get some time to prepare the answers. So I
Right.
was able to come up with 4 points over here. So I think that
Mhm.
the first one would be, great teams are able to improve themselves every day, right? With every experience, learn and then inspect and adapt themselves. So this is why retros are considered by many of the persons that I interview as the most important, event in Scrum. Of course, there's no, correct answer to this, but whenever they answer retros, I think that I know what they are thinking, right? They are thinking in improving themselves every single sprint. So that's really good. I think that that's one, how able they are to improve themselves. That's the most important one. The other one is that good teams deliver working quality software, right? Every sprint, or at least they try, or they come closer every sprint. That's the measure that that you see on the Agile Manifesto. That should be the line that defines good versus not so good teams. Working quality software, right? Working software with good quality. Um, Also, I like my teams to be business oriented, right? It doesn't make sense for a team to deliver a lot of features if the features are not affecting in a positive way the customer or the end user, right? So I have seen teams that create a lot of things every single sprint, but they don't provide value, right? So there's a difference between creating software and delivering real value to real customers, to the business, right? So they should be focused on outcomes instead of focused on outputs, right? And the last one would be, and I think that this has to do, I read this with Jürgen in his book, Management 3.0. They need to enjoy their day to day. There's some magic that happens in the value delivery from a team that is happy and motivated, versus one where the developers over there or the QAs are just doing it for the money, right? If you're able as a company to have a really great, awesome vision, and transmit it to your employees, so they are onboarded and engaged not only with what they are doing in their day to day, but the long term incentive, like the vision of the company, then probably that will be a great team, right? So those are my 4 points.
Okay, perfect. There are two questions in the chat, so just let the audience interact with us. Mauricio Hernandez say that, do you think that agile leaders should get into coaching and mindfulness in order to better support teams?
Yeah, I think that totally. As I just mentioned, agile leaders from before didn't consider coaching at all, right? You were just there because you gave good instructions and you had the power to do this and do that. Right now, you need not only to be a manager or an agile leader, but also if you want to be one successful leader, you need to get into coaching, right? And be able to support the teams. Yeah, of course.
Perfect. And Ashuto, this one is for you.
Okay.
What techniques have you found the better to get valuable feedback in retro meetings in order to continue with good practices and improving in opportunity areas?
Yeah. So one golden rule I apply for retrospective is, and I agree with what Hector suggested. Don't force a technique. You call the team, you ask them, okay, how would you like this to be, right? What do you think we should be doing, right? I mean, how we should conduct a retrospective. So one technique which has worked is, we have also tried a lot of formal techniques, the one which are available, right? What went well, what did not go well, what are the areas of improvement. But over a period of time, what happens is these techniques do not yield results. We actually introduced a very interesting concept in one of the engagements, and which we have continued over a period of time. The technique is called as live retrospective. It is so we don't have to wait for the last day of the sprint to conduct a retrospective. What we did was we kept a big box in the middle of the team, and we said that as the day progresses, if you have any point, you just note it on a sticky note and put it inside. You don't have to write your name. And on the last day of the sprint, when we formally conduct a retrospective, we actually pull those items out. So what happened with this was that people did not forget, or on the last day they did not have to remember, okay, what happened on day 2, day 3 of the sprint. And as and when the things were happening, people were writing it down and putting it in the box. So that technique has definitely helped us, because it helps us to identify, okay, what was the situation on that day, what things went well, what things did not go well. So we really do not have to spend time in an actual retrospective, because moment we open the box on the last day, the retrospective pointers are there. We just have to brainstorm and discuss and pick up the items for the next sprint, or an action item for the subsequent sprint. So live retrospective or a silent retrospective, I think those are some of the techniques which I have used in my coaching journey.
Perfect, perfect. And we are going to end with this question. I just want to put a point, and you answer it after. In order to improve engagement and motivation, what could be the better approach with team members? I think that the main thing that we can do as a coach is to listen and to ask, just to enable a new kind of conversation. And I want to put something, and I want to know if you think the same. I think that in the future, we have to join, or we have to connect the personal purpose to the result that we are looking in the organization. I think there is a way to engage the people, and also a way to get the results that we are looking. What do you think about that? About the connection of purpose, of personal purpose, with the result that we are looking in a Scrum team?
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I mean, I don't know into what level will be possible, but of course that we are in every company we're persons, and as much as the company understands that we are persons, humans, persons will be motivated. They will be happy. They will enjoy working over there, and you can see this all over the place, right? Right now, there are companies offering, I don't know, guacamole in the office, right? Because they saw that these guys liked guacamole, so let's put guacamole in the office. So these kind of exercises that they are doing, they are totally aligned with, hey, I'm a person, right? Stop treating me as an employee and that I just come over here, write some code, and then I go. No, no, no. I'm an employee, and I like stuff, and you should take care of me, right? So you can see there all over the place in the benefits that many companies are implementing, right? Like unlimited PTO, like vacation, unlimited vacation, these kind of benefits. They are thinking in the person, in the personal side of the person, right? Per se. So yeah, I believe that this will we will only see this more and more.
Perfect. And Achuto, it will be the same for Asia and for
Yes,
India?
yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I mean, the personal goals have to be aligned with the corporate goal, and I feel that yes, as employees, many times it is easier for employees to do, but from the company side also that empathy has to be there. There's yes, we have these corporate goals, but I also need to take into account what are the aspirations of my employees. What do they like? What do they don't like? How do I enable that culture? How do I bring about that ecosystem where the company goals and the personal goals are aligned to each other. So I think it's a clap which has to be done by both the hands. So both the hands have to come together and clap towards it. Just expecting one entity to do that will not happen. But yes, at the end of the day, both the goals have to be aligned. I would go with that. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Ashuto. Thank you, Hector. It's 10 p.m. and it's 8:30 in India. In America, it's time to sleep. In Asia, it's time to work. And I really, really, really appreciate the time that you take to have this conversation. I love the conversation. I get new insights from how to build an agile culture, including country behaviors, because definitely the culture in each country, we have to take that into account to do any kind of transformation that we want. So thank you so much. Um, just to end, I would like to give a final message from one of you, from Hector, from Ashuto, and maybe if anyone want to connect with you, where they can find more information about your channels, about your profile, about the maybe information on another tools that you are going to do, I don't know, next week, next month.
Yeah, so they can find me in my YouTube channel. You can find it as Scrum Express, right? So that's my YouTube channel, and probably I will put it in the comments of this video. And yeah, thank you, Fabian, thank you, Ashutosh, for a great conversation. I had a really good time, and yeah, Ashutosh, you want to go next? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, first of all, thanks, Fabian and Hector. It was wonderful talking to you, and thanks, Fabian, for giving me an opportunity and inviting. People can reach me on my LinkedIn profile, or I have a channel, Agile Coaching and Leadership Transformation. That they can actually connect with me, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to talk further with people on one-on-one on this. So thanks once again.
Okay, perfect. So good night, Hector, and good morning, Achuto. It will
Yeah,
be
good night.
Thank you.
bye
Good
bye.
night,
Bye.
and yeah, bye, bye.
0, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis on a mission to build, resupply, and to do research on the International Space Station.
Houston now